Hi, I'm Coulter, owner of Little Greens Farms in North Dakota. I just wanted to let you all know that I am going to start a series here, a couple different series actually. One will be talking about growing flowers and such for bedding production, for resale of plants, whether that be wholesale or retail, on a small scale farm. We're a very small scale farm. We're 1.5 acres. We have, as of right now, a little less than 10,000 square feet of greenhouse. And actually, I'll show you here today, we just got a couple different shipments of flowers. So what I want to do with these couple series that we're working on is, one, I want to kind of show you just how we do things in general and talk a little bit about production and kind of give you maybe hopefully a weekly update of kind of what's happening here on the farm. We also do vegetable production, not organic but natural, and I want to talk about those in yet a third series, more or less. And the main series that I want to talk about is kind of giving you production guides from things we've experienced. This is our 4th full season selling wholesale flowers, retail flowers in pots and such like that, so bedding plants. That will be our production guides for bedding plant production. We'll talk a bit about doing the vegetables in kind of its own series. I don't know exactly what I'm going to call that yet. And then we're just going to kind of go around and look at the farm here as the weeks pass or whatnot. So for this video, I want to, as we talk about kind of what we're going to go over, I want to kind of just show you around what's currently happening here at the farm. So as we saw, all these are flowers that have come in here today for the most part. We had some come yesterday. These actually all came in on a grower truck, they call it. So the mass greenhouses that produce all these from cuttings, so you can see here, these guys are produced from cuttings. So there will be a mother plant, and I'll show you some of those in a minute, of a couple things that we do cuttings off of, and they'll cut this vegetative shoot off, that's called a cutting, and they'll stick it in these different types of soil media blocks. And over the course of the next few weeks, they will produce these roots. They'll be rooted in, and then they're shipped to us for potting up and planting. So we'll be potting them into things like hanging baskets, 4.5 and 5.5 inch pots. And we'll talk more about those and kind of how we do it, what we choose to do, what's worked really well for us, and what we think generally will work well for you. We also want to talk about things like watering, because there is actually a little bit of a science to watering to make sure that things are consistent, and you're not having disease issues, and you're having good growth. Fertilizer is really important, how much, how we fertilize. We're going to talk about some of the systems we use, setting up some of those systems. We'll talk about taking some of your own cuttings. I'm actually over here right now. Some of these are some of our mother plants that we've overwintered. We've actually kind of cut them fairly aggressively here about 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago today actually. So these are like a German ivy, and these are cuttings from some that we inherited actually a couple years ago from a cultivator, and then some Bolivian Jew. These are some ice plants. Some of this stuff here is actually for our vegetable farm, and so we got some of our candy onions, our sweet onions, yellow sweet onion, really popular. So we want to talk about quite a few of these different things. We'll talk about seeding, kind of how we seed, different methods you can use, different methods of kind of caring for those seeds, getting them to grow the way you want them to for production, so you have consistency and quality in your production. One of the reasons I really want to talk about this type of things and put it online is I haven't really seen this void filled for small production farmers. You know, we have a lot of home gardeners which have a lot of wisdom to impart, but some of it's not super efficient for, you know, larger scale like production or small commercial scale, stuff like that. And then you have the massive operations, kind of like where we get all of these here plugs, you know. I mean, like, look at all this. We've got hundreds and hundreds of petunia plugs that have come today. We've got osteospermum. Earlier we were looking at geraniums, a bunch of filler plants and such. A lot of this, what's here today, is actually going to go in hanging baskets. So we're pretty small. We produce a little over 700, between 700 and 800 hanging baskets in a year. That's for our small retail in a small town nearby, and for some wholesale to a place about an hour from us. There's a seller who likes to buy from us locally. And so most of these, well, not most I wouldn't say, but a good chunk of these are for hanging baskets. Here's some calabricoa, calabrocea, however you choose to pronounce it. We all around here like to refer to them as callies because it's a little shorter and a little easier for everybody to say. There are, you know, we got different green plants and whatnot. So we'll be doing mixes and different sizes of pots and whatnot. And so we'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about kind of some of the better methods for being a little bit more scaled for production scale of this sort. And we want to talk about greenhouses and kind of how to set them up and what we've learned about how not to set them up. And I mean, honestly, we're a pretty low-tech operation. I set things up when I was in my late teens, and I've learned a lot since then on how we can do things better. We're still working with what I set up then, but we're slowly changing things. This greenhouse here actually is half the length it was a year ago. About a year ago exactly, this was a 20 by 72 foot greenhouse. Technically it's a heated high tunnel, and we had a nasty spring storm come through, dump a bunch of heavy wet snow, and it collapsed this entire end of the greenhouse. So this whole end, from about where I'm standing right now to the very end, was caved in. And if any of you are locals from the area and have followed us on Facebook, you would have seen pictures of that. It was kind of a sad morning when I came out and found that, but sometimes those things happen in real life. But what we've actually done is we've actually set it up right. So we put twin wall polycarbonate paneling on. It's a little bit more insulative than just plastic like I have on the back walls in my other ones. A lot less prone to wind damage when it's on a straight flat wall on an actual stud frame. You know, and then we put louvers in and such things. You'll see how my late fall hurried setup of all my other greenhouses as we talk in future videos. How that all went and what we've learned, what we're learning, and how we're slowly fixing it. But that's kind of where I want to start. I'm going to actually take you now to the greenhouse, because this is our bedding house, or our plug house really, our prop house, propagation house. And what this really is this is where all the babies live. This is where, when we're done seeding things, they germinate, they come up, we'll bring them all out and we'll take care of them in here. This is a little smaller greenhouse, so we can afford to start a little earlier, better. We heat with propane. It's not the cheapest method of heating necessarily, especially in the area. We could use coal. That would be a lot cheaper, but the infrastructure to set coal up is very, very expensive, and we haven't made that step yet. We would like to in the future. But no, we'll talk about a lot of different things as time goes on here. I'm shooting for a how-to or an instructional video on bedding plant production every week. We're shooting for a farm update every week, and hopefully we'll be talking about veg production every week starting very soon here. It is the 28th of February right now, and we were actually, some of these plants over here, like I said, are actually, like these peppers here, they're just a couple weeks old, three and a half weeks old, I believe. They are gonna be potted up next week to be grown on, and we actually backed our planting dates up a little bit, or pushed them forward I should say, to the 1st of April. Usually we plant our veg in the ground around the 15th of March, between the 10th and the 15th of March. But what I'm finding is, the way that I set things up a few years ago, the soil doesn't warm up quite as well as it would have if I would have set things up perfect, and it's a little harder to heat, and we don't really see that super early extra production bonus from planting the 15th of March. It's that extra 2 weeks of propane makes a big difference the way that we're set up. So this year we're kind of, like I said, pushing things back a bit, so we're starting a little later. And my theory is, and we'll touch base on this later, is that we'll actually see veg production within less than a week of when we normally would. So I'm not too worried about it. Not to mention I've got a lot of things going, and I think it will help lighten our load a little bit when we need a little bit of extra time right now. So let's go take a look at the other greenhouses. So this is greenhouse number 1, as we call it. The prop house is greenhouse 0. It actually had a different name. I had somebody renting it from me the first season we had everything up, and so it didn't get numbered with the rest of the greenhouses. Also, it wasn't heated and such, so I didn't at that time put the value in giving it a proper name or number. So because this is greenhouse 1 and greenhouse 2 and 3 and 4 are over there, we named the one that direction 1 affectionately. Also called the prop house, the start house, such like that. So greenhouse 1 is dedicated to veggie production. You can see we're actually not too far away from actually tilling in here and prepping the soil. That's a video that I want to do, is talking about soil preparation for all natural farming. The importance of it. We're going to talk a little bit about keeping healthy biology and such. One of the important things that we've found is cleaning out the greenhouse in the fall makes a big difference as far as our spring workload. When things finally snap off and it's like, oh, we have all this work to do. Now I don't have to spend 2 days extra or an extra day gutting all the greenhouses. The other thing gutting them does, and actually we treat everything, we spray it down with a fairly strong bleach solution on all the plastics and stuff. It gets rid of and maintains and suppresses disease and insects, which is huge, because in the last 2 years we've been doing this more and more diligently, and it's made a big difference. We'll talk more about that in future videos on veg production and on bedding plant production. So these are all high pressure sodium lights. They're 400 watt ballasts, and actually in the early season when we were starting things closer to the 1st of March or even like the 3rd week of February in the ground, these lights gave us a big difference. We would run them for, depending on how much sun we were having, between 4 and 8 hours a day on the shoulders of the sunlight to kind of get a little extra growth. But anyways, you can see things are not perfectly clean, but we made a big effort to make sure everything was as clean as reasonably possible, so that we could make sure that our cleaning, when we applied our bleach and stuff, actually was effective. You can see all my trellising and stuff. We're kind of just leave it in place. It's a lot of work when you know you're just going to put it right back up. Last year is the first time we did this like this with this black fabric. Usually we use a plastic mulch fabric per bed, and then we have just bare walkways. And those bare walkways, while they are drier because the drip line isn't there, they can be a nuisance for weeds. And they're harder to clean and keep clean, and the disease can kind of take over more easily when you can't clean as well. So what we've actually done is we've run raised beds. These actually, they were a lot of work, but this black fabric is great. These holes are 3 or 4 inch hole on 8-inch centers, and they work great for production of tomatoes and peppers and cucumbers and such like that. And they make a really big difference as far as keeping the weeds down, makes a lot less work for us, keeps the airflow better, the disease down. Big difference. So now we're gonna go over to greenhouse number 2 and switch gears a little bit. Actually, I'm going to take you to greenhouse 5 right away. That's our last veg production house that's currently up. So greenhouse 5 is more gable end style Gothic arch. So it's got a 6-foot high sidewall, comes to the peak. I have a few grow lights in here. These are more almost work lights than grow lights. They're spaced far enough apart. When I originally put them in here, I was planning on growing greens through a chunk of the deep winter, which here in North Dakota, if you didn't know, we can have in our area down to 40 below sometimes at night in the winter, often 25 below during the day during deep winter, and it's just not economical for us to heat, especially with propane. But you can see, I mean, we're just kind of set up same way as greenhouse 1. The bed spacing in here is a little bit wider, which we like a lot better. We get a little better airflow. But it's also important in this house because it's facing east-west, so it has a south-facing sidewall. It means that we get better light to our plants than if they were closer together like they are in greenhouse 1. In greenhouse 1, the light can come in from the south and do a pretty good job. So we'll go over now to greenhouse number 2. So now we're in greenhouse 2. Things are a little messy in here right now, so you'll have to forgive me. But we've started operating here already. I have the heat on just above freezing, so my soil mix stays thawed. I don't have a heated warehouse to park my soil in to keep it nice. So we got a lot of soil mix here, as you can see down in the back of the greenhouse even. I've started filling pots. You can see some of the pots I've been filling. I've been filling hanging baskets. This is about a third of our hanging baskets. There's like 250, 270 baskets there. I don't remember exactly. But we're going to talk about a lot of stuff on this channel, and I'm really kind of excited because I'm hoping to fill a gap here that I don't see being filled in a way that I think is really all fulfilling. And maybe there are more people out there like me who were kind of starting from scratch when it came to bedding plant production and didn't really have all the tools I wanted or needed. I had a lot of experience growing. I mean, I've been growing my whole life. I started working for a farmer who's a neighbor of ours very young, and I love growing, I really do. But when it came to doing the flowers, I didn't have all the knowledge I needed, and no matter how much you read on the internet or study or learn, until you get your hands on what you're doing, you don't fully learn and experience it and have the experience to show at the end of the day. So in the last 4 years of production of bedding plants, we've learned a lot, and I will say right now, I'm no extensive guide on any of this knowledge by any means or any stretch of the imagination. But what I would like to say is I want to help impart the knowledge that if I had had 4 years ago would have lent much more success to us. Also, I'll say we're still making mistakes, and I want you guys to come and learn these mistakes with us too. You know, so you'll be able to at least catch it sooner. I'm not saying it'll keep you from making mistakes, because heaven knows I've had a lot of information that I still made mistakes on, but it helps us to be able to spot those mistakes sooner. So here's a bunch of pots filled and ready to fill. This is a soil mixer that I built. Some of you, if you're subscribed to my channel, one of the 11 people right now, thank you for subscribing. You've probably seen the short video of this soil mixer working. That was posted a year ago. I had planned a year ago to do a little bit more video work sooner, but thank you all for those who are watching this who have seen that. We'll talk about it more as time goes on. Here's our flat filler, the auger. You can see it's not perfect in here. I've got all these old tables. These are actually getting kind of old now. The person, when I bought all the greenhouses 6 years ago, the person I bought them from had them built for quite a few years and use out of them for quite a few years. I stored them outside because I didn't have a good place to store them, and they've gotten a bit wobbly, as you can see. But we kind of take some care to prop them up and brace them as they get more tired, and we're trying to get the best of our life out of them here before they're completely shot. But you can see we're getting ready to produce here. We'll get all these hauled back to the soil mixer as we fill pots, and I'll probably be filling a lot of pots this week so that once we give chemical drench to the flowers to try to make sure they don't get fungal infection and disease and such, that we'll bring them in here. We'll start potting them up and growing them in here. So this is greenhouse 2. I still gotta plug my circulation fans in and some stuff like that, but we're getting there. Now we'll go over and take a look at greenhouse 3. So now we're in greenhouse number 3, and we've still actually got a little bit of work to do before we can produce in here, but I'll have to get that done here very soon. I've got some Agribon, which is row cover, up as a shade cloth. It's between 15 and 25%. I don't remember which weight this is. I think it's the heavy one, so it'd be 25% shade, which was really important for us. We were growing some hydroponic veg in here last year as trials to kind of see, to use the best of this space through the summer. Right now I'm just using it to kind of house and partially thaw some soil, so it's a little quicker to thaw out when we need more. We start going through a lot of it as soon as we start filling trays with pots and filling it. I have to rearrange some stuff. I have a couple purlins that kind of popped. You can see over there, we had too many hanging baskets in here. It was a little stress on the frame, and so I've got to do a little bit of work to fix that from last year and set things up so that the load is more distributed evenly, and so that we actually don't overcrowd the baskets. We had almost half again as many baskets as we should have had in here last year because I didn't plan right, and we had over like 1,000 baskets, which was too many. But yeah, I wanna talk about a lot of different things. So many things coming to mind even as I'm shooting this video that maybe even aren't on my list of things yet, so I will be definitely reviewing this to make sure that I don't miss any. But we have another small greenhouse. Actually, I will show you later, but I'm gonna show you how to build one as well someday, or how to build a caterpillar tunnel version of it. I probably won't do a video right away on building a full greenhouse from scratch, but someday soon I would like to. Anyhow, if you liked this, or if you're excited about this video, please subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified, all that stuff you hear from everybody all the time. But I would really like to reach 1,000 subscribers soon. Hopefully maybe by June we can do that. That would be great. If you think this information is valuable, please share it with somebody that you might know who's trying to get into this and learning. We've come across a lot of good sources for information, a lot of good sources for product, and we'd like to talk about those, share those, make this more accessible. You know, kind of the market gardening community has blown up hugely in the last 10 years or so. There's become a lot of information on the internet regarding it. It's a lot easier to start and to find information, so not everybody is having to reinvent the wheel every time that they go to start a market garden. What we would like to do is we would kind of like to start the same thing here for production information. You know, we would like it to become accessible fairly easily for anybody who wants to learn. And like I said, I am by no means an extensive source of information, but I'd like to get the ball rolling. That's kind of our goal here and what we're doing. And I hope this is really helpful. I hope you can be excited or hopeful that it will help, and let's get growing together. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Hey, thank you for watching. I really appreciate that you made it through my first video. One thing I would like to say before we go is that if you have any questions, I'm gonna do my best to answer those. Depending on the volume of questions we get, I would like to try to answer those questions on a weekly basis as they start to become more. Otherwise, I'll try to answer them in the video, at the end of the video of my weekly update or production guide, something of that nature. So what I would like to do is try to do my best to answer from the knowledge that we've gained from the little bit of experience we have in the last few years doing this, and I would like to extend that information as something to help you to know how to better start. You know, all the things we've learned, all the little things, that's really what this channel's about, and what we want to talk about is the little things, the important things when it comes to producing bedding plants for people to put in their gardens and on their decks and porches and hang in their patios. And it's beauty. God gave us flowers for beauty, and we want to be able to spread that beauty everywhere. It's important to us, and we want to help give all the small growers who want to do this opportunity, because it is something that you can make a living doing. It's hard sometimes, it takes time, it takes effort, but it is possible. So we'd like to help answer your questions too, and to kind of make it a little personal. So anyhow, if you can send those our way, we'll be more than happy to do our best to answer them. Thanks. See you next time.